Anyway, thank you very much for bearing with me while I did that shit. Back to things. See, if I'm eating at a place that does proper noodles rather than pot noodles, then, it is proper to drink the broth. Whereas, my pot noodle broth is boiling water and some weird bullshit, so no, I don't drink it. That's disgusting. So that's not a noodle broth, that's mostly powder and boiled water. Hello, Weiss. Hello, Kira Shinji. Yes, we are playing Game Saved. It's going alright. Hello, Bacon O'Cap. I think I said that right. Yeah, I was gonna say, I think the noodle broth has, like, a bunch of salt in it, probably, which makes it not... If you're looking for something that will hydrate you, salty water is generally considered to be anti-productive for, reasons. Well done, ethicist. You got shelved before I did. I'm getting shelved soon. Like, that's happening soon. Like, next month. The plans for that got stalled hard because my roommate, who was... Roommate? Not roommate. He's not roommate. He moved into his own place. A friend of mine moved into his own place. And he was the person who was going to, do the whole IKEA thing, but then he got caught up in his own bullshit. Which is very good. I'm very happy for him. But obviously it then, kind of stalled my thing. I need to scratch my ear. See, I need a shelf just purely because I have too many games and not really enough places to put them. Get owned by the filter, Watsu. We talk about food in this chat too much. That keeps coming up. It's kind of annoying, actually. Everyone gets owned by the filters. Yeah, see, I'm okay with, like, my emote filters are fine. It's the salt is probably the problem one, because that actually comes up a lot during, like, ordinary food discourse. The problem with Kappa is that it very often gets used as like... It's used in a way on Twitch that I don't like. Because it generally gets used to say something like sarcastically rude, and then you put a Kappa on it to be like, oh, I'm not being serious, but... In reality, it's just, it comes across as, like, rudely over familiarity, which is, like, obviously quite common on Twitch due to the nature of the interaction involved on the platform. I don't like it. Therefore, I force people to consider how this will come across if you don't have the universal sign for sarcasm put at the end of your words. And for the most part, that actually seems to work. But if you don't have the signage to go along with it, then people actually do seem to consider that they might be coming across as, like, it might come across as bad if there's no emote attached to it. It's funny how that works, but it does actually seem to work. I do get, like... I get the rudely over-familiar tweet reply more than I'd like still, though. It comes with being online in any shape and form, really. You somehow got through. Yeah, somehow Zoku is allowed to do it. That's the joke's thing about playful overfamiliarity and being rude, is that you're allowed to do it if you're certain people. Which is usually my mods. They can do it. You can't do it. They can. It's a new game, man. The people, they want to talk. They want to talk about the hot new video game. That was 12:24. No, 12:23. Whatever. Close enough. I would like another glass of water after eating my salty ass noodles. Is that outside of the top 100? No, it's just 12 times listed as 00 on the spreadsheet. Is SH2 allowing the spreadsheet to get rid of the RNG? Look at the title. I don't know where people even get the idea that it was ever, like, being questioned that it would be banned. Sorry, forgive me if I'm like, this comes across as rude. It's actually a reasonable question. Like, I'm not doing this to make fun of you, Quest Wilson, but I think people get the idea from, like, the Kotaku article that, like, said something like... I think Kotaku said something like, it's not been decided yet whether or not this chart will be legal for use, and it's like... It was never... No one said it wasn't gonna be legal for use. Like, huh? So, like, there have now been lots of people arguing about this. Sometimes in my mentions, a lot of them in the Reddit thread. Some of them came over to the Discord to be like, it should be legal because... And we were like, we were never considering making it not legal. No one was thinking that. I think a couple of people might have been thinking that, actually. But for the most part, no one was really thinking that. Like, you always get weird outliers in these communities, but, like, that didn't even really come to a vote. It didn't come to a decision. Like, we were like, oh, we have this now. It wasn't a decision, it just... Like, when it was revealed, it's like, okay, we'll just use this. Like, it didn't... I hate the way this has been presented. I hate it so much. Because it's caused, like, completely harmless individuals. Like, fortunately, some people just ask, and then I'm like, no. Obviously, we can use it. Like, it's fine. Some people just ask the question, and then they get the answer, and they're like, cool. But some people, like, immediately open confrontationally with me about it. Some people immediately go, why is this, like, have you decided? Yeah, it's like, why is it not just allowed? And it's like, it is just allowed. This had no chance of ever being banned. Like, nobody wanted to, for one thing, because, like, we don't like the RNG in this game. It sucks. I don't like it. It's annoying. Having the RNG manip is great. Yeah, I didn't think that'd hit. Way too early. So, I don't know, I guess it, like, in a vast majority of cases, it's not necessarily that person's fault for not, like, immediately understanding the relevant context. But I'm kind of, like, disgruntled about the fact that the method by which a lot of people have got the wrong idea is a Kotaku article that was too vague. So now I've had dozens of people up my ass being like, you know, why are you guys even considering it? Why is this even... How is this different from any other game? And it's like, it's not, it isn't, and it's not banned. Because I think people, like, got mixed up by the fact that my original Reddit thread was saying that, like, the guy who was, like, dropping solutions into people's streams... I gave it, like, kind of a clickbaity title by saying that he was, like, cheating on behalf of streamers, because when only one person has access to, like, the program that can calculate the seeds out and is dropping it on random people unsolicited, that's probably some kind of dodgy. To which that probably would be, like, rendered not valid by a leaderboard. That doesn't violate a specific law or rule, but it does violate common sense. Whereas now that anyone has access to RNG manip, there's literally no reason to ban it. It's a question of availability, not the technique itself. Although, for what it's worth, I do think, like, computer generating the RNG by just putting it in and having a computer spit the results out is kind of weird. I think using a computer to work out relevant seed results and then feeding them back to you via the form of this list, which you can then use yourself to figure out what seed you're on, is using a computer to figure out something that a human can then do, which is fine, albeit a bit weird. Like, there's a very subtle distinction between that and just having a computer solve for seed 600,000. Because people are like, oh, well, you know, you could look it up in a giant-ass spreadsheet, in theory, if you had all the seed results in a table like this. And it's like, you could in theory, realistically, absolutely not. Like, a human being isn't going to be able to pass 2 fucking billion seeds, even if they have all the puzzle results. It's just not gonna happen. This, like, looking up the seed result as a result of the clock face only works because we have a narrow range of applicable seeds to work with. Which means having more seeds available isn't actually useful, which is the reason I can't be bothered to argue with it that much. Like, someone in the Salho community who is, like, a smart person who has, like, been very good at developing tools and techniques and modifications to these games that enable good, like, testing, And he also made, like, the randomizer for Silent Hill 3, so, like, smart guy, knows his stuff. He's currently coding a program that can, like, solve for RNG seeds automatically. Because if he wanted to do that and someone asked him to, he probably would have done it ages ago. But we didn't ask him to make, like, a program that can solve for RNG manip ages ago, or solve for RNG seeds ages ago, because we didn't really want that. We didn't really want a computer program to just solve our RNG for us. Because that's not... That's using a tool to assist your speedrun in a live environment. Like, as long as you push the buttons, then apparently that's okay, according to a lot of people. I don't agree. I think that's weird and fishy. Like, we have rejected runs in the past for doing that. That tech is not unknown to the Silent Hill community. Like, people before have tried to use, like, cheat engine and what have you to look up seeds during live gameplay, and we don't really allow that, because it's not really kosher. But now that we have a human RNG manipulatable method, and that's actually probably superior to having a computer crunch like 2 billion seeds, I can't be bothered to get that angry about a program like that existing. I still think it's, like, ethically dodgy. But practically, I don't know, it doesn't matter, so I can't be bothered to get upset about it. Yeah, I kind of agree with Worcester's sentiment on this one. Like, Worcester said the same thing like a week or so back. Because Pokemon runs in particular, Pokemon runs have, like, a bad case of this. Like, it's relatively benign in Silent Hill 2 now, fortunately, because of the human method being so, like, workable. But Pokemon games just have tools that just solve incredibly complicated RNG seeds automatically for a runner if they input the relevant data, and it's like, you can't, like, you're never working that out backwards, you're having something crunch it for you. That's a tool. That's tool-assisted. But acceptability of, like, assisting tools in speedruns varies wildly based on community and also context. Pokemon seems to be okay with just generating fucking everything. Which, for the most part, I agree with Worcester when he says that, yeah, that, like, takes a huge amount of decision-making out of the process if you just don't have to think about what you're doing. And then, like, the example that always gets brought up to me is the thing with Banjo-Kazooie, where apparently you can... Or is it Banjo-Tooie? I don't know. Where you can generate, like, automatic answers to your Furnace Fun questions, which I find that a bit suspect too, if I'm being totally honest. But that kind of, like, pseudo-TAS RTA style is becoming increasingly more common these days. And just accept it, and kind of once the genie's, like, out of the bottle on that one, there's really no putting it back in, either. Yeah, that's it. The Pokemon stance is very loose. It doesn't interact with the game, but it does, like, simulate a massive portion of it and then generates results based on that simulation. Which is like, at what point are you just essentially coding the game into your program to then generate results off of? Because that's kind of what the SH2 RNG lookup program is doing. It's calculating the seeds by running through the same formulas that the actual game uses to calculate its RNG, and it's like, that's... If that program had gotten made years... This is why that program hadn't existed before. It's because before human RNG manip, if that program got made, it would not have been allowed in runs. Guarantee you. Guarantee you people would not have liked it. I would not have liked it. What is RNG manip? It's when you manipulate RNG. If you don't know what the words mean, RNG stands for random number generation. It's a thing computers do to produce random results. But the thing about computer-generated random results is that it's kind of difficult to have computers produce something that's actually, like, truly random. So a lot of, like, random number generation in software, especially video games, has some sort of bias to it. In this case, it's because the seed number that determines the random elements always seeds from the same starting point. Fuck. So if we start the game at the right time, we can always generally know what our seed is going to be within a certain range, and then from that, we can take some other data points and triangulate our actual seed from there. So technically it requires 2 data points. It requires time and at least 1 puzzle result. But controlling for time, as is the case with the human RNG, it reduces the possibility space massively. Which again, I think is a subtle distinction from just putting puzzle results in a computer and having it spit the solution out. Because at least one of those requires a slight amount of execution. Like, I'm not saying the RNG minute's fucking hard, because it's not. But you do have to do something. I don't know, that's me. Again, opinions on this vary dramatically. The funny thing as well is that Silent Hill has historically been against external tool use for ages. Like, Silent Hill has actually not even really liked kill trackers for a very long time. Like, if you kill enemies in these games and use, like, say, a small interface, because there do exist small interfaces for this, that can track your kills for you, people just don't use them, because they don't like them. Despite the fact I actually think Silent Hill 2 and 3, certain categories are massively improved by using them. Like, Silent Hill 2 10-star is borderline unplayable without a kill counter because the kill tracker in this game's fucking buggy. You kinda, like, need something that, like, is viewing that because there are certain odds of your kill just not counting in Silent Hill 2 for no reason. Then you have UFO ending, which, like, you can count in your head, and I did. But there are certain bugs in that game's kill tracking too, which I did not notice and would not have noticed without a kill tracker. Because I was, like, consistently experiencing, like, a couple of one-shot errors. And I was wondering how the fuck that was happening, because I was always, like, counting right, and then I was not getting it. And so I went through with a kill tracker, and I realized that if you kill pendulums too close together, they only count as one. Which is fucking stupid. Yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with using a kill tracker in these games, but historically, the thing about kill trackers in Silent Hill games is that they've never actually been banned, not properly. But they're frowned upon by a certain sect of people. And that's at least one of the reasons I don't run 10 stars, because I don't want to, like, kick the fucking hornet's nest, because I really wouldn't run that category without a kill tracker. Not with the game being as buggy as it is. UFO ending is also, like, kind of intolerable without one. I still grinded it out, but that was not fun. See, when I say, like, it's been a very, like, grey area kind of thing, is that there are runs on that leaderboard that have the kill tracker literally on the layout, and you can see it. It's not banned, and I have no interest in banning it, but it's not, like... it's not well-liked. Hello, Necrite. So no, I guess Silent Hill games do have, like, a very, traditional approach when it comes to assisting programs. I mean, I guess I have a traditional approach to, like, relatively speaking, I have a traditional approach to tool-assisted programs. Because I do not like something that actually actively calculates game states for you. That's decision making. Hello, Hayward Airline. But I'm perfectly okay for, like, minor assists, like something that just keeps track of your fucking kills. I don't really care about that. I think it's a big quality of life thing, and, like, it's a PC game. Fuck it, who cares? But people do not feel the same way, so fart noises. Whereas a bunch of other communities have far more, like, permissive rules regarding that sort of thing. There are certain wrinkles to this as well, like Silent Hill games especially are kind of a weird mix of PC and console runs, even though the console runs historically have always been a massive, massive minority. I'm aware that's like an oxymoron of a statement. What I mean by that is that, like, it's 98% like PC and like 2% console runners. But the console runners are loud. Because technically it's an advantage that the console version cannot utilize because you can't like hook a tracker up to the console version. And that has actually been like the argument that I myself made for disallowing the use of a kill tracker in Silent Hill 1. Because the only place where you can use a kill tracker in Silent Hill 1 is on an emulator, not a console. So that's a subtle distinction. PC game, yes. Emulator, Like, you see where this starts to get really complicated? You have to consider different versions, you have to consider mixed version, you have to, like, realistically, I really wish I could just not care about the console versions at all of these games and just make rules based around the PC version, because there are, like, 2 people who run console. I don't fucking care. Like, besides the fact the PC version has massive advantages by being the PC version. Are those people Brazilian? No. Brazilians don't really run Silent Hill 2 and 3 on average. The games don't run on crap computers. You need a computer that's at least made after the turn of the millennium. Silent Hill 2 is popular with Russia. Which, the major problem that causes is, the fact that they tend to submit runs in Russian, which is not allowed because there isn't a Russian version of this game. They're using a fan translation. This comes up a lot. I have also, like, I've rejected quite a few runs for running on Russian fan translation or Brazilian Portuguese fan translations, because they're just, those games don't have official Russian or Brazilian Portuguese translations. They don't exist. Which, you know, I've tweeted this once before actually, but that has always felt kind of weird to me, right? Because we are permissive of runs done on any language the game was actually released in. So, like, if you want to run your game in French, that's okay. If you want to run your game in Japanese, that's fine. If you want to run your game in Korean, Chinese, any religion it was actually released in, golden. There was even a Polish release at one point, I think. For Silent Hill 3, at least. Fan translations, though, fall under modification, so we've historically never allowed that. Which is funny, because if there's a Japanese game with an English fan translation, the English fan translation is almost invariably allowed, or is given a different category. Because that's just the fucking world speedrunning is. It is Anglo-centric. Hell, the extreme example of this is Pokemon, where Japanese is flat out banned. You know, the native language of the game. It is an English language only leaderboard. It did have a different board, now it doesn't. And for any other game past, like, Gen 1, yes, Japanese is banned. I'm pretty sure that's still the case right the way through to Let's Go. Is that it's still English only. Like, I think that's a universal rule on Pokemon leaderboards, is English only. When a game launches, a big game, is there a period of time speedrun submissions are not reviewed because the world record will change too often? It's becoming more common nowadays that when a big new game is released, the community will have a sort of a period of time close to its release where they don't accept leaderboard submissions. Like, they'll just kind of pile up in the queue precisely because it takes time for moderators to, like, play the game and get acquainted with it and for rules to be set up and established. Buffer period is a good word for it, yes. I hit the wrong door again. I keep doing that. I'm bad. That's becoming more and more common as speedrunning has gotten more popular, and certain games that you can tell, like, there's gonna be, like, a fucking gold rush with them as soon as they come out. Like, Sekiro, Kingdom Hearts 3, the Resident Evil 2 remake. Those are all games placed under that kind of, like, buffer period state before a leaderboard officially launched, necessarily. I'm getting... Wow, that was an incredible amount of input droppings. Well done, game. Fuck. See, the Japanese version is classed... I think the Japanese version of the first gen has a different leaderboard entirely because there's certain glitches that actually are only in the Japanese version, like the Doko Kashira door glitch. That's a new edition, then. Because as far as the last time I fucking checked, it explicitly said English language only. That being said, the English language board is still English only. Which still fucking freezes out languages that aren't English. Because, you know, God forbid anyone who's, like, Spanish or something felt like playing a Pokemon game. I don't get that. So that's the extreme example of it I can see, is that, like, it's not just language, it's, like, this specific language. Like, you either run English or you run Japanese. Like, any other language that exists doesn't count. Which is kind of wild, because I think Let's Go supports quite a lot of languages. I think it supports Korean. Like, what's the language rules for Let's Go? I haven't actually looked at that one. I'm pretty sure when I checked it, it was English only, but maybe that's changed. We need moderators to actually assess every language? No. We don't in Silent Hill. Mostly because I speak the two relevant ones. There are Japanese boards for Let's Go. Why do they have separate boards? Oh, I mean, well, at least they have Japanese boards, I guess. That's an improvement. When did they add Japanese boards for every game? Because that's, like, that's definitely a recent development. But I gotta wonder why they're, like, separate boards. I know there's some context involved with that, with, like, the fact that the Japanese community actually, I think, uses a different rule set for reasons, and I think the caveat with this is that JP rule sets for speedrunning are usually kind of weird. Like, JRTA rules is the reason you have to wait until the end of the fucking credits in Paper Mario, which... I ain't know about that one, Chief. Like, start time from power on. So I don't know, I guess every country has their weird quirky rules. I guess they finally got the JP thing. Well, maybe they didn't get the JP thing going. I don't know. There's some context I'm overlooking, really, with Pokemon. I probably shouldn't be too harsh, partially because I don't really understand what I'm talking about. Because, like, there's the JP community and the English community are a little different. And they've had, like, they haven't reconciled exactly for a while. So they kind of, like, do their own thing, and that's not really anyone's fault, necessarily, although I do think, like, the fact that the English category is English only is kind of weird. Like, it's not just not Japanese, it's English only, which... Like, that's not a practical difference, really, that's just never sat well with me. I don't like language rules. Hey, Joester. Congratulations, by the way, on your jumping flesh world record. They do tend to allow turbo. Yeah, end of credits is the worst fucking timing rule. And game is dead. JRTA in Final Fantasy is, like, commonly allowed turbo, and honestly that rule kind of bled back into it, because there are certain games that just kind of adopt it for the reason of this mashing fucking sucks, let's just use a turbo controller. Which, again, context is the thing, really, isn't it? The acceptability of these sorts of things vary dramatically across all kinds of speed games for all sorts of reasons. Like, if there was a turbo controller for the Switch that didn't suck ass, I'd probably use it for The World Ends With You, because that run is, like, too much mashing. Fuck that. Peace, fam. It is yet one more grey area, in a hobby full of grey areas. Whack. Hi, Ricky. I'm doing the RNG manip thing, we have that now. That's why I'm so far ahead. See, grey areas like this and all of that are the reason why, like, the competitive... the athletic and highly competitive nature of speedrunning is, a little overstated sometimes, because sometimes you just kind of have to make weird bullshit hodgepodge rules to keep the whole enterprise going. My amazing run got outdated with this. I actually haven't beaten it yet. I haven't beaten the dog ending run yet. It's actually kind of difficult. Like, I've done at least 3 or 4 runs with RNG manip and haven't PB'd that category. Thank you, game. Very cool. God damn. Yeah, no, my dog ending run is actually still the record. It proves surprisingly difficult to beat even with RNG manip. Like, RNG manip actually only saves somewhere within the ballpark of, like, 20 seconds or so. Which means even with saving 20 seconds, I still find it difficult to, like, compare to that run. I've been getting close, but I haven't quite gotten there yet. Yeah, it's a really good run. I'm surprised that worked, but I'll take it. Yeah, never mind, I just oofed on the floor twice there. It's okay, that's normal. Ugh. See, I'm more thinking about the fact that means I really gotta go back to normal at some point. That's a pain in the ass, because normal mode is annoying. I mean, normal is like the weakest of my records. I mean, hard mode is the weakest of my records, but no one cares about hard mode, so I don't care about that in turn. Whereas normal, someone might actually contest that one. In fact, someone has. The guy who discovered the RNG minute claims to have a low 40. He has, like, deliberately not submitted it to the leaderboards, though. And I don't know why. And that run also looks dodgy as fuck, so... I don't really know what to make of that. Like, there's some ridiculous, like, turbo bullshit mouse pressing going on in that run. I've seen the run. It's on the Internet Archive. Like, he knows about the leaderboards and has not submitted to them, which I find questionable on surface level. As well as the run in question just kind of looking fucking, like, weird as hell. Like, apparently it's single segment, but given that this is the guy who, like, also had a program to reverse engineer all of the game's, like, RNG on his hands, there's probably something going on with that run that isn't necessarily how you do it in an RTA setting. Especially because the guy given that his chosen method of deploying the knowledge of RNG minute was to, like, randomly drop it on people's heads in the middle of live runs to, like, kind of fuck with them. Familiarity with how speedrunning culture operates does not appear to be their strong suit. I get the feeling it might not be necessarily active malice so much as just, like, different sets of, like, understandings. Well, that's good. That's a fucking good run, by the way.